Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Becky Megas, she, her pronouns, and I am the founder and chief care connector for Women in Sustainability. And thank you for joining us as part of our Community Voices series. Today, this is an opportunity for our members to present on a topic that is around their expertise. Women in Sustainability, for those who are new to us, is an inclusive social and environmental justice nonprofit that is dedicated to caring for the people that care for the planet through community advocacy, resources, and education to create a sustainable and equitable future through the feminist viewpoint and feminist leadership. Women in Sustainability strives to create a safe space for like-minded and diverse individuals to create purposeful connections and conversations. All are welcome in our community. Before we get started, I'm really excited for today's conversation. I actually approached Sydney and asked her if she would be willing to come and do this conversation for us. When we first met, I know that she was always saying, well, I don't really work in sustainability. And I always said, well, I see that different. I think you are truly a woman in sustainability. And over the past years, we've heard many people in the organization say the same. They've said, well, I don't think I'm a person that works in sustainability. Just because their titles don't necessarily reflect the word sustainability or use the word environment. And we want to be here today to have this conversation, talk about how people, regardless of your title, if you are doing work that is better for the planet and people, then you are working in sustainability. And how do we break down those imposter syndromes of working in this space so that we can open up the path for many to be able to live a more sustainable life? That's why I'm so excited to have Sydney with us today. A little background about Sydney. She is the founder of Citrine Unlimited, and she opened that in 2022 as a tool to empower and mobilize clients. Whether working with Sydney as your leadership development and an entrepreneurial coach, trainer, event designer, or speaker, she is committed to creating a transformative experience. Sydney enjoys holding space for discussion on topics around leadership, tough conversations, building inclusive and sustainable culture, DEIJA, and building capacity for empathy. She also has various certifications to support her work, including trauma-informed care, mental health, first aid for youth, harassment prevention, and crisis prevention and intervention. She's also no longer in the process, she has published her book on imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs. And she's also working on another book called The 7 Holistic Habits of Effective Leaders. And I was going to actually I just finished Sydney's book. I'm really so excited. I got an opportunity to read it for today's conversation. And just a quick little expert is women not only combat limiting beliefs about themselves, but also limiting beliefs that come from others. Regardless of how imposter syndrome gets in a woman's head, they owe it to themselves to better understand the limiting beliefs and how they manifested so she can take her power back and reshape them into positive beliefs. So please help me give a nice, warm Women in Sustainability welcome to Miss Sydney.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much. That was a really nice intro, Becky. I'm like, dang. Session concluded. We're good to go. No. That was great. It's so nice to see everyone here, to get to meet all of you. And it's really cool to see that there are folks from various backgrounds on here, especially when in relation to sustainability. I know when I asked you all to do the Jamboard, and Becky, I don't know if you mind sharing that again for the folks that are just joining. But we have everything from folks who are sharing their love of vermicomposting, all the way to guiding their family to sustainability, to being students, taking a course in sustainability, all the way to just implementing practices within their own personal business or at the businesses they work for. So it's really cool just to see the various backgrounds that are here joining us today. And I appreciate you all for your time during this, what I would call a lunch and grow with one another. So let's start off by talking about what is imposter syndrome. I want to give you all just a very general, brief overview that imposter syndrome, it's a psychological phenomenon. And what happens is that part of it can be fueled by the outside world. Maybe you hear a comment, or maybe someone else has done something and you're like, well, I've never done that, or whatever it is. For some reason, it might get into your head that you're not as competent or adequate, or it's a fluke that you got to where you are. And then over time, for some people who have chronic imposter syndrome like myself, you can actually become your own co-conspirator, where you really start to feed into that narrative yourself. No longer do you necessarily need outside sources maybe influencing that thought. It can totally be just yourself, right? Feeding back negative narratives around, oh, I'm not good enough for this. I don't know enough about this topic. I don't have a degree in this topic. All these things might pop up. So I just wanted to share what exactly imposter syndrome is and where that comes from. It is a conversation that has been building over the last few years, especially with having even like celebrities speak out about it more. I know I've seen quotes from everybody from Emma Watson to former First Lady Michelle Obama talking about it. So it definitely is growing and understanding. What I'm excited about with us all being here today is, like Becky said, it is interactive, because a big piece of imposter syndrome is silence and holding on to these negative thoughts and feeling like you're alone, right? And that, no one else feels this way. And that also can feel some shame. And so what I think we're really all lucky here today with is the fact that there's like 30 of us on the line who signed up for this training or this workshop, right? But then also too, we all can learn and grow from each other. So why might we actually see imposter syndrome, especially when it comes to sustainability, when we're navigating the world? I know a lot of us who are in sustainability work, whether that be professionally or personally, whatever it is, usually we're deeply motivated, right, by strong values and beliefs. And this creates a big emotional attachment to the work that we're doing. Not a bad thing, but it does really create a huge focus for us on reaching this mission or goal, right? And then also what happens is that, as we start engaging with folks who maybe have other needs. I know I talk to a lot of folks of color about sustainability, and, it's not that, at least I can say in the Black community, right? Sustainability is a huge issue. It's a huge piece, but there are so many other things going on. There's other social impacts happening around the community that I'm a part of, at least, that it's really challenging to figure out, well, which one is the one that's really biting at my butt right now and I need to take care of first, right? And so that's a huge piece of why then, feeling like, well, is this really important? Is this really relevant to what I'm doing in life, can stem for some people, but also just the sheer size and the complexity, right? The sheer level of complicating factors around sustainability. This isn't like a simple, easy issue that you can solve overnight. We're talking about a global issue that has taken years, hundreds of years, right, to get to. And so we're now all in this space of trying to not only sustain, but also hopefully regenerate, right? Reverse some of the effects that have happened to our planet, to people. And that's daunting. That can be extremely overwhelming. And so those are some of the things too that can also feel this feeling of, ooh, maybe I'm not doing enough. So it's not only I don't know enough, maybe I don't feel like I'm doing enough. What's the point? Then you can start falling into this trap of hopelessness, right? Like, well, what's the point? So I think it's really important for us to have these conversations today around what it is we're experiencing and really feeling. In the Jamboard, I'm going to also share it on my screen, but what I would love for you all to do is to share with me, and this is anonymous, right? I'm going to ask some folks to be brave and step up and also speak out, But also, I wanted to give an anonymous space. So for those of you who might be a little quieter or need a little more time to think, to be able to share and see other people's answers as well. But I would really love for you to share a negative thought that you have had regarding your position in sustainability. A really good example of that, and I'm going to share my own personal narrative once we get into this a little bit more. But I used to think, when I first started my business, I'm not going to share that I'm a sustainable business owner, because that's going to actually not attract people to my business. And I'm not an expert enough in it. I don't know enough in sustainability to say that I have a sustainable business. So that was my negative narrative, one of them. Believe me, I have many that was flowing through my head. So I would love for you all in the Jamboard to share one, if you have more than that, feel free to, negative narratives that have come up for you when thinking about sustainability. And this is on slide number 2. So let me get my screen up so we can all see the answers coming through. Oh, oh boy. All the mails arriving. I'm going to mute myself and move my dog really quick while its answers start flowing through. So while some thoughts are coming in, I see here, and I'm going to give a little more space, but yeah, I do see that a lot are starting to come in.
And I will note too, if anybody has trouble with Jamboard, you can also either post in the chat or send it to me in the chat, and I will happily post it for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing that, Becky. Okay, so I see some here that have popped up. I'm not doing enough. I still fly, right? I've contended with that one too. So I totally get that one. I don't have personal experience in sustainability. I could be doing more, but do I have the energy to do more? Okay, good, great one there. I don't have enough experience in the field. I'm not smart enough to do the work project job, even though I have a master's in sustainability and have done lots. So that's a big one. That's deep. Thanks for sharing that. All of you, thank you for sharing. I recognize at any level, all of these are really, can be really hard to say out loud. And that's the also thing about negative narratives that we create in our heads, and the things that we say to ourselves is, if you really think about it, some of these negative things, you would never say this to another person or a dog, even sometimes the way you talk to yourself, let alone, like another human being. So why do we say these things to ourselves? So we're going to get into that a little bit too, but these are really great that are coming through, and I appreciate all of you that are sharing. I don't know enough. Yeah, that's a big one that's popped up. No one will take me seriously. I feel that. I don't have certifications. I'm just fumbling around trying to figure shit out. I love that one too. I feel like that's life.
I was just going to say that I'm pretty much that sure that describes my whole life.
Yeah. I literally asked myself the other day, I was like, when did you become an adult? Like, are you an adult? What is happening? So I just want to share a little bit of my narrative and why I was really grateful that Becky, you asked me to speak about this, because like you had said, when I first met you, I actually was transitioning from working full-time for a corporate-esque job, and moving into a travel business. So in 2019, I had started a travel business, which was going pretty well until it wasn't, as you all can imagine, which is why I had to pivot. But when I started this travel business, I really, really wanted to focus on sustainable travel. I wanted to really be conscious of, where my clients were not just traveling to, but how are they being in these spaces, right? I think a lot of people get vacation brain. But then it's like, how are you actually being respectful and supporting the local community and the people that live there, even when you leave, right? Are they actually getting an honest wage from your dollars there? Is there a real trickle down with where your money's being spent? Things like that, right? And so I really had this passion to do that. However, I was really nervous because, for some reason I had in my head that, like, if I said I worked on sustainability, no one would take me seriously. They would be like, well, what qualifies you to do that? Why do you want to do that? Just all these questions. And I actually had some people come to me with negative comments that really just reinforced me being like, whoa, like maybe I shouldn't say something. And it took a lot of time with me actually sitting, talking with people like Becky, but then also really being in a space where I got coaching. I invested in a coach since I was like getting started and having all of these, like, I was literally panicking about things and getting a lot of anxiety. And my coach was like, well, you really need to think about it this way. If you say that you're passionate about sustainability and that's what really is driving you and that's what you want to do, then speak about it, because all of the people who aren't for it, they're not your right people. They're not the folks anyway that you want to be around. And so that was the best advice that I had regarding my business. And even now, I still tell folks, even though my business on the outside, when I approach people, doesn't inherently look like a sustainable business, I still tell them that I am a sustainable business owner, because a lot of my practices that I integrate into the work that I do, the way I show up as a person in the community, even if it's not my business, is like sustainability work, air quotes, right? Because that's very wide and there's a lot of intersectionality. I still say now that I'm a sustainable business owner. So I'm curious, would anybody on here be open to maybe sharing a narrative that's popped up for you and you're comfortable with sharing it? And then we're going to work on reframing it as a group together. Go for it. Yeah, I see your hand raised, Caroline. Please share.
Yeah, mine is that I don't have professional experience in sustainability. I do have a master's in environmental leadership, and it's something that I've been lived in an eco village, and it's been very important to me personally my whole life, but I've never had a job that was sustainability related.
Okay, so you don't have enough professional experience in sustainability. That's your narrative. Does anybody else on the line resonate with that one? If you don't mind, maybe dropping a heart or a plus or something. I see a hand raised. Okay, I see hearts popping up everywhere. So know that you're not alone. This is a very common thought for a lot of individuals, and I'm seeing some pluses come through in the chat. So when we talk about reframing, for those of you who don't know, reframing is the process of taking a thought, and it's actually you slowing yourself down, which can be very hard in the society we live in, we're in a very fast paced, like go, 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 go type of society. But it's really you catching yourself when that thought comes up and flipping it on its head and turning it into a positive, reaffirming statement. That's literally what reframing is. So would you, Caroline, like to take a stab at it? You might need a moment to think about it and or support from everybody else on here. But anybody, I'll give you a second to maybe think about it.
I can think of a few things, but I am really curious to hear how, like, I don't know, to harvest from the group, how people would reframe that.
Yeah. Okay. I also want to hear yours too, but yes, we can hear from the group too. Anybody have one to have a statement that could reframe this thought of I don't have enough professional experience?
I would say, I mean, you have the experience and the education that gives you maybe not necessarily the professional background, but you can use that entirely, I would say, as a background or experience. So you could, like, say if you did a project while in school or in living in the eco village, you can use that as your experience.
Yeah. So see how you can start reframing that, I'm sure. And to that point, thank you, Jocelyn, so much. Caroline, when you were, in school working on projects and learning, and when you lived in the eco village, did you apply some of that knowledge you were learning to actual things in life?
I mean, yeah, like everything all the time.
Everything all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I still fly, but I try to do all the other, all the sustainable practices I can. And yeah.
So from a professional standpoint, what an employer, if you're thinking from professionally in the employer, like being hired by an employer sense, they're wanting to connect with you for who you are and how your brain thinks in relation to sustainability, right? So you have that knowledge based off of what Jocelyn was sharing, right? And I can see you even smiling. See how much different that made you even feel the emotions that came up?
Yeah, and I'm like trying to because I can hear that same, imposter voice come and be like, no, you're wrong. They want people who have a master's in business sustainability strategy or something. They want somebody who has already done this for another company or something. And so I was smiling because I was like, hush, hush. The point is that we're going to let go of you for now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes time. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I'm chronic with my imposter syndrome. So when I first started practicing reframing, literally over and over again, I'd get hit like that, where it'd be like, okay, I just reframed this. Oh, now I got to just reframe again, or say like, be quiet. Shh, you're fine. So I appreciate you pointing that out too. That does happen. It's not just it's like the gym. Right? I wish I could say I could go to the gym and hit my goals in one session. That's never happened for me, or I think anyone in human history, right? So it's the same thing of a mental gymnastics of practicing over and over again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your willingness to share. And there were some really great, check out the chat. I mean, there were some really, really great reframes that came through.
Thank you, Sydney. Thanks for the opportunity to work on that.
Yeah, thanks, Jocelyn, too, for that reframe. How about another one? We have time to do another one.
I think mine is really similar, so I'm not sure that there's a ton of value here, except that I now have a job, a professional job in sustainability. And I'm like, but I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I compost and have solar panels and I do all this stuff in my personal life, but then I get on these calls and I talk to these people who are creating products to increase carbon sequestration and the offset of like all of this super technical stuff. And I'm like, okay, Google, I really need you here. And so I feel like I faked it enough to get the job. And now I'm like, oh, am I really in the right place? Because I don't know what's going on. And these people are really smart.
Okay. No, actually, I'm very happy you spoke up. It's a great value add for sure. With everyone here, I saw some people smiling, some head nods. I'm going to ask that question again. Anybody ever feel that way, right? You get into a room, there are some people who are signed experts in a certain topic, and then you're like, what the heck did I just, what? Yeah. Anybody else feel that way? I'm seeing some thumbs up, some hearts, some hand raising. Yeah. Yeah. So this one is a good reframe too, right? For when you're telling yourself, well, I'm not an expert enough. Do I belong in this room? Do I belong in this space? Is that maybe something that runs through your head? And Amanda?
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I was on the right track. I didn't want to like speak for you, but okay. So do I belong in this space? Do I belong here? Anybody want to do a reframe?
I can tell you what I tell myself to try to make myself feel better.
Yeah, go for it.
So my job is essentially helping early stage climate entrepreneurs and founders create a business plan to increase their likelihood of funding or accelerators, acceptance into accelerators, et cetera. And so while I don't necessarily have professional experience in sustainability, I do have professional experience in like helping businesses thrive. And so I'm like, how different can it be, right? Like maybe I don't fully understand your nanocrete carbon sequestration, et cetera. But hey, I do know that we're going to have to really be able to define your problem and your solution, your why, your theory of change, your et cetera. And so I try to be like, okay, I don't know this part, but I do know these parts, and maybe that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're headed on the right track of that reframing talk for yourself. Courtney dropped a really, really great reframe in the chat where it says this space could benefit from my fresh energy and perspective that I can bring. So do I belong here? Heck yeah, this space really can benefit from me being here and what I bring into it. You know, I have my own level of knowledge and something that other people in the room may not understand very well. And that's why I'm here. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing. So what I'm going to do, I was going to ask you, Becky, I should have asked this ahead of time. But sometimes I build the plane while I'm flying, just depending on the group. Is it okay if I set up breakout rooms and have us do a little bit of reframing? We all know now, we all thought about our own individual negative comments that we say to ourselves. Now I want you as a group to support each other with reframing whatever your negative comment was. I'm going to put you into groups of 4 for how much time do we have left? We're doing okay.
Yeah, about 20 minutes, and I can create those rooms for you.
Okay, let's do like groups of 4 for like 10 minutes.
So 7 rooms.
Yeah, for like 10 minutes. And what I want you to do is to work with each other to reframe some of those negative thoughts that come up. Of course, if natural conversation happens, totally cool too on top of it. But also on the Jamboard, there's a second or third slide where you can put the reframe for what you said earlier. That was your negative thought. I would love to see all of your reframes start to come through on that Jamboard. Before we do the breakout rooms, does what I just said make sense? I want to make sure I didn't throw too much. Okay, cool.
You ready? And I like flying the plane as we're going, figuring it
Okay.
out. So we're rolling with it. I told you. So we started this with rolling with
Okay,
it
good.
today, right?
I was like, sometimes I'm not sure which tool I want to use. So cool.
We're good. We're set up for anything you need. So, all right. Are we ready? Everybody set?
Yeah, I got a bunch of thumbs up, no questions.
Cool. We're gonna go. We'll see you all in about 10 minutes.
Seems like for the most part, most of you had decent conversations. Anybody like to just share maybe some aha moments just by hearing other people share where they're coming from and some of their negative thoughts and helping them to reframe? I'm a believer in awkward silence, by the way. So if it gets real weird and quiet, I revel in it, because it allows people to have time to process and think. So I'll ask the question again, maybe in another way. How was that experience in the breakout room for you all? Any takeaways from it? I'll be more open with the way I ask.
And I'll share too. Sydney and I sat here while you were in the breakout room and had the same conversation, right? We talked about how she just released her book and also felt those moments of, imposter syndrome, and how I a lot of times have those continued moments of imposter syndrome. And it's something that we continually to work on in our lives, especially as we grow as people and grow into new spaces and do something new. It's always something that you're working on and combating. So we were also having the conversation as well.
Mhm.
And then we talked about cats and dogs. Yeah.
We did. Okay.
I think
Oh, go
one
ahead. Go
thing-
ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I will share, and I shared this with my small group as well, is like, to me, it's so easy and obvious to reframe somebody else's negative thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you not see the value that you're bringing? And yet I just struggle to do that for myself. But, the two that were in my group, I was like, oh my gosh, you are so clearly in the right place and deserve to be there and need to be there. Like, it would be terrible if you weren't there. But then I don't always relate that back. But so I think that this level of collaboration and meeting in this group is really great for that, because maybe I don't know a lot about imposter syndrome, but hopefully that those words of affirmation from other people help you, I don't know, whittle away at your own.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So that shared community space. And like I had said, that's what's really deceptive about it, is like when you get these negative thoughts, it can cause shame sometimes, not for everybody. I don't want to assume for everyone, but that can be a symptom, right? And wanting to close off and kind of sit and like, oh, I'm the only one. And these spaces just prove that definitely you're not the only one. And you do have that support. I was going to say, I see someone said, one thing I struggle with is turning my reframing into a paragraph in a cover letter. Beth, do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Like what you're experiencing with?
Well, I haven't actually done that. I just today realized that the way I constantly talk about not having a science degree is not helping. But I have all this personal or volunteer experience in sustainability. Some of it's rather old, and I'm not quite sure how to turn that into, here's why you should hire me.
Yeah, well, I think the fact that even just saying like, well, it's really old, I can understand where you're like, well, it's been a couple of years since I've done this, but in my opinion, that doesn't necessarily matter, right? You still had that experience as a human, you still volunteered, so you gave up of your time to actually do whatever the project was or whatever the activity was, right? And so I think by you actually sharing that you do have experience in not only doing this project, but also being that type of human that donates time towards those projects is a huge way to flip the narrative from, oh, well, even though I don't have a science degree or a science background, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I guess maybe I should focus on the effort I put into it. Maybe that would be useful in a cover letter.
Yeah. Anybody have any other advice around that for Beth?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to focus on what you do have, and don't mention and don't even think about what you don't have. Men are famous at doing this. They apply for jobs that they're not qualified for, and they don't think twice about it. Women do. And if we want a level playing field, we have to stretch ourselves, and we have to be out there, and we have to sell our positives. So no negative self-talk.
Maybe it's different in this space, but I know primarily coming from like the business space, I also just know that degrees are becoming less important. There's less focus on it. And so again, maybe that's not, if you have a science degree, maybe for a particular reason, but I mean, I know in recent years in reviewing applicants for whether it's sales or customer service or any roles like that, it was like, degree or not, that's not really a qualifier anymore. So even maybe just letting go of the limiting belief that you need a degree in science, then why acknowledge it at all? Like it might not even be relevant anymore.
I think you're onto something. And we talked in our breakout group about the fact that this is really about people changing habits.
Mm-hmm.
And so the better your people skills, the better your leadership skills, the more you can help lead people to a better future, is far more important than the technical background.
Yeah, our environment and our landscape is definitely shifting. And so I know I do some consulting around like equitable hiring. I have a friend that she's huge on HR systems and consulting. And so she even talks to organizations about their resume and like, what are you actually looking for in a person? Like what values and what are those major soft skills that you need, but really what are the values you're looking for? Because you can teach people things. You're looking for that right person that culturally fits right into your org, and also that person that wants you to invest in them and wants to be invested in, and that way they stay with the organization, hopefully for a little bit more time. So I really appreciate that this conversation came up, because to the point, Susan, when you said women are more likely not to apply for things, that has been the case for a very, very long time. And I hope that we can all start changing that narrative for each other and encouraging our friends, right? Even if it's not you applying for something, if it's a friend, like be like, yeah, go for it. Like the worst thing they can do is say no. That is the worst thing that could happen. You're not physically going to be harmed. It's not going to hurt your reputation. The worst thing they could do is just say no. I'm going to end us off with one final thing. I want you all, the very last slide of Jamboard. What is one thing you're going to walk away with this reframing you did? One thing you can do for yourself, whether that's slowing down and remembering to reframe or something. What's that one thing you can commit to for yourself?
And while people are working on that, Sydney, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
It's my favorite question that we ask on our webinars. What do you, looking into your crystal ball and this magic little mirror, what do you see as the future for sustainability?
Man, I see for the future of sustainability, what I see is for us to get to a point where we're not only sustainable, but like I said, we're actually regenerative. That's what I really see the next like iteration of sustainability being, is like having that deeper understanding of like, okay, we're not just trying to stop what we're doing. We're trying to actually reverse and do things better, trying to evolve, whether that's technologically or environmentally or as people, just in a different way. So yeah, that's what I see. And also hopefully more youth getting involved. That's a big piece of my heart, is working with young adults. I call them young adults. Some people laugh at that because they're like, what? But I call them young adults, but working with youth, and because they're our future, and that sounds corny, but it's true. The impact that they have, the things they learn at a young age really stick with them for a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Good.
I think we're at time, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time and just say, I'll hand it back to you, Becky, but just want to say thank you so much to all of you for joining, people who are rewatching. I'm proud of you all for showing up for yourselves today. And thank you, Becky, for really inviting me to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So glad that you are here. I will note again that I had an opportunity to read Sydney's book, My Own Worst Enemy. Highly recommend it. She has lots of really great journal prompts in there. So if you're trying to figure out how to make this all make sense in your head, Sydney's book is a great way to start that. Continue the conversation, keep connecting. There's a lot of people drop their contact information, stay in communication. We do these events every fourth Wednesday of the month. We'll have more coming up. Next month is going to be on empowering women and improving climate resiliency. And then we're going to be talking about storytelling in May. So hopefully you'll join us again, womeninsustainability.org. As a thank you from Women in Sustainability, we will be planting trees in your name, Sydney, so you'll get more trees. And we'll send you that certificate. So it's always an honor to be in conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time today, sharing this expertise with us. And just, thank you everybody for being here. What a great conversation. I'm feeling very, very excited to continue talking with all of you about how we can all help each other out in this space.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, everyone.